Nia Carter thought the worst thing about working the night shift was the terrible coffee and aching feet, until her abusive ex cornered her in a dark alley, demanding money she didn't owe. What she didn't expect was the mysterious Korean stranger who'd been watching her from the shadows, a man whose quiet, "Who did this to you?" would unleash a protection so fierce it would redraw the battle lines of an entire city. But when her ex's gambling debts pull her into the crosshairs of a ruthless mafia boss who sees her as collateral, Nia discovers that her mysterious protector isn't just some good Samaritan. He's a man with his own devastating losses, his own enemies, and his own very dangerous way of solving problems. As she's forced to choose between the safety of his guarded mansion and the freedom of her simple life, one question burns through everything. How far will she let him go to keep her safe? And more terrifying still, how far is she willing to go to keep him? Subscribe and tell me in the comments, would you trust a dangerous stranger to protect you from an even more dangerous enemy? The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Nia Carter wiped down the last booth. Her phone screen glowed with a text from Aunt Evie. "Don't forget my morning pills are on the counter." Nia typed back quickly. "Got it. See you in an hour." The clock above the register read 11:47 p.m. 3 more minutes, and she could clock out. Her feet ached in the worn sneakers she'd had for 2 years. The bell above the door chimed. Nia looked up, expecting to see Marcus, the night cook, returning from his smoke break. Instead, Evan Pike stepped inside. Nia's stomach dropped. Her ex-boyfriend's eyes were bloodshot, his jaw tight. He wore the same black hoodie he'd had on the last time she'd seen him 3 weeks ago. "We're closed," Nia said. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled as she folded the cleaning rag. "I'm not here for coffee." Evan's voice was rough. He moved closer to the counter. "You've been avoiding my calls. I blocked your number." Nia stepped back. The coffee machine sat between them, but it wouldn't stop him if he decided to come around the counter. That was rude. Evan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We need to talk about the money." "What money?" "Don't play dumb. The money you owe me." Nia felt anger spike in her chest. "I don't owe you anything." "That's not how I remember it." Evan leaned against the counter. "All those months I paid for Evie's medical bills. That's debt, baby. You offered to help." Nia's breath caught. "I never asked for it." "Doesn't matter. A debt's a debt." The kitchen was empty. Marcus had gone home early, and the manager had left at 10. Nia was alone with Evan, and the nearest neighbor was 3 blocks away. "I need to lock up," Nia said. She moved toward the register, keeping the counter between them. "Not until we settle this." Evan walked around the counter. His footsteps were heavy on the checkered tile. Nia backed toward the kitchen. "Evan, please, just leave. I've been patient. 3 weeks, no response." His voice was getting louder. "But patience runs out. I don't have any money." "Then we'll figure out another way for you to pay." Something cold settled in Nia's stomach. She knew that tone. She'd heard it before, back when they were together. Back when his hands would find her wrists and squeeze until she stopped arguing. "Get away from me." Nia's voice was sharp. "Or what?" Evan stepped closer. "You'll call the cops? Tell them what? That your boyfriend wants his money back?" "Ex-boyfriend. We'll see about that." Evan lunged forward. Nia dodged sideways, but his hand caught her wrist. His fingers dug into her skin. "Let go." Nia pulled hard, but his grip tightened. "Stop fighting me." Evan yanked her closer. "You always make things harder than they need to be." Nia drove her elbow into his ribs. Evan cursed and loosened his grip just enough for her to break free. She ran for the back door, her heart pounding. The alley was dark except for a single streetlight that flickered every few seconds. Nia's hands shook as she fumbled with her keys. She could hear Evan behind her, his breathing heavy. "Running won't solve this," he called. Nia didn't look back. She sprinted toward the street, her bag bouncing against her hip. The bus stop was 2 blocks away. If she could make it there, footsteps pounded behind her. Evan was faster, and her legs felt weak from the 12-hour shift. "Nia!" Evan's voice echoed off the brick buildings. She reached the corner and glanced back. Evan was 20 feet behind her, gaining ground. His face was twisted with anger. Nia turned right and kept running. The bus stop came into view, a small glass shelter under a yellow light. The digital display showed the next bus would arrive in 4 minutes. 4 minutes was too long. Evan caught up as she reached the shelter. His hand grabbed her shoulder and spun her around. Nia stumbled backward into the glass wall. Enough. Evan's face was inches from hers. You think you can just disappear? Pretend we never happened? We're done, Evan. Nia's voice was breathless. I told you that. Nobody dumps me, especially not for some fantasy about taking care of your aunt alone. Evan's hand moved to her throat, not squeezing but threatening. You need me. I don't need anyone. Evan's other hand came up fast. The slap snapped Nia's head to the side, and she tasted blood on her lip. Don't lie to me. His voice was quiet now, which was worse than the yelling. You're nothing without me. You and that old woman, struggling to pay for pills and rent. Nia's cheek burned. She could feel blood trickling from her split lip, but anger was stronger than fear. Go to hell. She shoved him hard in the chest. Evan stumbled backward, surprised. Nia used the moment to run again, but he recovered quickly. His hand grabbed her arm and jerked her back. You want to do this the hard way? Evan's grip was bruising. Fine. We'll do it the hard way. Headlights swept across the street. A bus was approaching, its engine rumbling. Nia looked toward the light, hope flaring in her chest. But the bus was still a block away, and Evan's grip was tightening. Then she heard the car, a low rumble, different from the bus. Nia looked to her left and saw a black sedan pulled up to the curb, engine idling. The windows were tinted, but she could see the outline of someone in the driver's seat. Evan noticed it too. His grip loosened slightly. Get in the car, a voice said from behind them. Nia turned and saw a man standing in the shadows between two streetlights. He was tall, with dark hair and a long coat. She couldn't see his face clearly, but his voice was calm and cold. This doesn't concern you, Evan said. His voice was less confident now. Get in the car, the man repeated. He stepped forward into the light. Nia recognized him. She'd seen him at the diner before, always alone, always ordering black coffee. He never spoke much, just sat in the corner booth and read his phone. She'd noticed his hands were clean and his clothes were expensive. Nia. The man's voice was softer when he said her name. The bus is here. The bus wheezed to a stop at the shelter. The doors opened with a hiss. Evan's hand was still on her arm. This isn't over, he whispered in her ear. Then he let go and walked away, his hands shoved deep in his hoodie pockets. Nia stood frozen for a moment. The man in the coat was watching Evan disappear around the corner. His profile was sharp in the streetlight, his jaw tight. Miss, the bus driver called. You getting on? Nia climbed the steps, her legs unsteady. She fumbled for her bus pass and found a seat near the back. Through the window, she could see the man still standing by the streetlight. The black sedan was gone. As the bus pulled away, Nia touched her split lip. The blood was drying, but it still stung. She pulled out her phone and typed a text to Evie. Running late. Be home soon. She didn't mention Evan. Evie worried enough about everything else. Nia leaned her head against the cool window and watched the city pass by. 23 minutes to her stop. 23 minutes to figure out what she was going to do about Evan. Because he was right about one thing. This wasn't over. The bus stopped at a red light. In the reflection on the window, Nia could see her split lip and the bruise forming on her cheek. She looked away. Behind the bus, a black sedan kept pace in the right lane. Nia couldn't see the license plate or the driver, but something about it made her stomach tighten. The light turned green. The bus lurched forward, and the sedan maintained its distance. 3 blocks from her stop, Nia pulled the cord. The bus slowed and stopped with a wheeze of brakes. She got off and started walking toward her building. The sedan drove past slowly, its engine barely audible. Through the tinted window, Nia caught a glimpse of the driver. Dark hair, clean profile. The man from the bus stop. The car didn't stop. It turned right at the next corner and disappeared. Nia climbed the steps to her building and fumbled with her keys. Her hands were still shaking, and it took 3 tries to get the right key in the lock. Inside, the hallway was quiet, except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Nia climbed 2 flights of stairs to her apartment. She paused outside the door and listened. No sounds from inside. Evie was asleep. Nia unlocked the door and stepped inside. The living room was dark except for the glow from the kitchen light Evie always left on. Nia could see her. Aunt's bedroom door was closed. She went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. The split lip was worse than she'd thought, and the bruise on her cheek was already turning purple. Nia cleaned the blood with a washcloth and dabbed antiseptic on the cut. It stung, but not as much as Evan's words. You're nothing without me. She'd heard that before. For 2 years, she'd heard it almost every day. After Evie's stroke, When the medical bills piled up and Nia couldn't work enough hours to cover everything, Evan had started paying for things. At first, it felt generous. Later, it felt controlling. By the time she realized the difference, he was calling them money loans. By the time she tried to leave, he was calling them debts. Nia turned off the bathroom light and went to the kitchen. Evie's pills were lined up on the counter in a weekly organizer. Nia checked the schedule taped to the refrigerator and counted out the morning doses. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You can't hide what's mine." Nia stared at the screen. The number was local, but she didn't recognize it. She blocked it and deleted the message, but her hands were shaking again. She double-locked the front door and checked the windows. The fire escape was outside her bedroom window, but it was 3 flights up. Evan was lazy. He wouldn't climb 3 flights, Nia hoped. She pulled a chair from the kitchen table and wedged it under the front door handle. It wouldn't stop someone determined, but it would make noise. Then she went to her bedroom and lay down fully clothed. Sleep didn't come. Every sound in the hallway made her tense. Every car that passed on the street made her wonder if it was the black sedan. At 3 a.m., her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Sweet dreams. Nia blocked that one too, but she didn't delete it. Instead, she screenshot the message and saved it to a folder she labeled Evidence. If Evan wanted to play games, she'd document every move. Outside her window, a car engine idled for a long moment, then drove away. Nia pulled the curtain aside and looked down at the street. It was empty except for a few parked cars, but something felt different, like the shadows had shifted while she wasn't looking. Nia let the curtain fall back into place and tried to sleep, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw Evan's face in the bus stop light. She heard his voice. "You're nothing without me." Maybe he was right. Maybe she was nothing. But nothing was better than being his something. Dawn was breaking when Nia finally fell asleep, and even then, she dreamed of black sedans and men in long coats who knew her name. When she woke, her phone showed 3 missed calls from another blocked number. No voicemails. Evie was humming in the kitchen, making coffee. The sound was comforting and normal. For a moment, Nia could pretend last night had been a bad dream. Then she touched her split lip and felt the sting. "Morning, baby," Evie called. "You're up early for someone who worked late. Couldn't sleep." Nia got out of bed and went to the kitchen. Evie was standing at the stove, her grey hair pinned back, wearing the blue robe Nia had given her last Christmas. "Your face." Evie's voice was sharp. She set down her coffee mug and moved closer. "What happened?" "I fell getting off the bus." The lie came easily. Nia had been protecting Evie from the truth for months. "That doesn't look like a fall." Evie's eyes were clear and focused. The stroke had affected her speech and mobility, but her mind was sharp. The steps were wet. Nia turned away and opened the refrigerator. "What do you want for breakfast?" The truth would be nice. Nia's shoulders tightened. She pulled out eggs and milk, keeping her back to her aunt. "Some things aren't worth worrying about," Nia said. "Some things are worth talking about." "Evie, that boy came by yesterday." Nia went still. "What? While you were at work?" "He knocked on the door, said he was looking for you." Evie's voice was careful. "I didn't let him in." "What did he say?" "That he missed you, that he wanted to make things right." Evie paused. "I told him you weren't interested." "Good." Nia cracked an egg into a bowl. Her hands were steady now. Anger was better than fear. "Is he the reason for that bruise?" Nia didn't answer. She scrambled the eggs and made toast, moving through the familiar routine. Evie sat at the small table and watched. "I can't protect you if I don't know what's happening," Evie said. "I can protect myself." "Can you?" The question hung in the air between them. Nia served the eggs and sat across from her aunt. Evie's left hand shook slightly as she lifted her fork, a lingering effect of the stroke. "He wants money," Nia said finally. "He says I owe him for helping with your medical bills." "Do you?" "No. He offered to help. I never signed anything, but you let him." "I was scared. The bills were so high, and I couldn't work enough hours." Nia's voice was quiet. "I thought he was being kind. Kindness doesn't come with a price tag. I know that now." Evie reached across the table and touched Nia's hand. Her skin was soft and warm. "We'll figure something out," Evie said. "We always do." Nia felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them away. Crying wouldn't solve anything. "I need to get ready for work." Nia stood and cleared the dishes. "Take the day off." "I can't afford to." "One day won't hurt. One day might be all he needs." The words slipped out before Nia could stop them. Evie's eyes sharpened. What do you mean? Nothing. I need to keep my routine. Normal is better. It wasn't normal, and they both knew it. But normal was all they had. Nia showered and changed into her work uniform. Black pants, white shirt, comfortable shoes. She covered the bruise with makeup, but the split lip was harder to hide. Before leaving, she checked her phone. No new messages, but the blocked numbers were still there in her call log. Lock the door behind me, Nia told Evie. Don't answer it unless you know who it is. I'm not helpless. I know, but I'm scared. The admission surprised them both. Nia didn't usually admit weakness. Evie stood and hugged her. The embrace was fierce despite her aunt's small frame. We're stronger than we look, Evie whispered. I hope so. Nia left the apartment and walked to the bus stop. The morning was clear and cool, with the kind of light that made everything look possible, but she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. At the corner, she turned and looked back at her building. A black sedan was parked across the street, engine running. The driver was a shadow behind tinted windows. Nia's breath caught. She pulled out her phone and took a picture of the license plate, but the angle was wrong and the numbers were blurred. The bus arrived with a wheeze of brakes. Nia got on and found a seat near the front. Through the window, she watched the black sedan pull away from the curb and follow the bus. The driver maintained a careful distance, always 2 cars back. At red lights, Nia could see the outline of his profile. Dark hair, sharp jawline. The same man from last night. But was he following her or protecting her? The bus reached downtown, and Nia got off at her usual stop. The sedan drove past without stopping, but she caught a glimpse of the driver as he passed. Their eyes met for a split second through the tinted glass. His were dark and unreadable. Then he was gone, and Nia was alone on the sidewalk with the morning crowd rushing past. She walked the 3 blocks to the diner, checking over her shoulder twice. The sedan didn't reappear, but the feeling of being watched lingered. The diner was busy with the breakfast rush. Nia tied on her apron and got to work, grateful for the distraction. Coffee cups and order tickets and the familiar rhythm of service. But every time the bell above the door chimed, she looked up, expecting to see Evan's face. Instead, at 10:30, she saw the man from the sedan. He chose the same corner booth he always sat in, far from the other customers. He wore a dark suit today, perfectly tailored, with a white shirt and no tie. His hair was black and neat, and his face was serious. Nia approached his table with coffee and a menu. Her hands were steady, but her pulse was quick. "Good morning," she said. Her voice was carefully neutral. "Coffee, black." His voice was low and calm. No accent, but something in the cadence suggested English wasn't his first language. "Anything to eat?" "No." Nia poured his coffee and set the cup down. He didn't look at her face, which was a relief. The makeup covered most of the bruise, but the split lip was obvious. "Thank you," he said. Nia walked away, but she could feel his eyes on her back. At the coffee station, she risked a glance over her shoulder. He was looking at his phone, but his posture was alert. The morning passed quickly. The man in the corner booth nursed his coffee and read his phone. He left a $20 bill on the table for a $3 cup of coffee and walked out without a word. Nia bussed his table and pocketed the tip. $17 for bringing him coffee. It was generous, but it felt too much like charity. The lunch rush began, and Nia forgot about the man in the expensive suit. She had orders to take and tables to serve. The work was exhausting, but it was honest. At 2 o'clock, her break came. Nia stepped outside for fresh air and saw the black sedan parked across the street. The driver was inside, talking on his phone. Nia walked to the corner and back, testing. The sedan didn't move, but she could feel the driver watching. When her shift ended at 6, Nia clocked out and gathered her things. The sedan was still there. She walked to the bus stop, her shoulders tense. The black car followed at a distance, keeping pace with her slow progress down the sidewalk. At the bus stop, Nia sat on the bench and waited. The sedan parked half a block away. Through the tinted windshield, she could see the driver's silhouette. The bus arrived on time. Nia got on and found a window seat. The sedan followed, always 2 cars behind. At her stop, Nia got off and walked toward her building. The sedan drove past without stopping, but it turned right at the next corner, probably circling the block. Nia climbed the steps to her building and used her key. In the hallway, she checked her phone. No new messages. But as she climbed the stairs to her apartment, she heard footsteps behind her. Heavy footsteps, too heavy to be one of her neighbors. Nia looked back. A man in a black hoodie was following her up the stairs, his face hidden in shadow. Nia's heart hammered against her ribs. She ran the last few steps to her apartment door and fumbled with her keys. The footsteps got closer. "Evie," Nia called as she unlocked the door. "I'm home." She stepped inside and slammed the door behind her. Her hands shook as she turned the deadbolt and slid the chain into place. Through the peephole, she could see the man in the hoodie standing in the hallway. He raised his hand and knocked on her door. 3 slow knocks. Deliberate. Nia backed away from the door. In the kitchen, she could hear Evie moving around, humming softly. The man knocked again, harder this time. "Nia." His voice was muffled but familiar. "Open up." It was Evan. Nia's breath caught. She pressed her back against the wall beside the door, her heart pounding so hard she was sure Evan could hear it through the wood. "I know you're in there," Evan said. His voice was calm, which made it worse. "Your aunt, too." In the kitchen, the humming stopped. "Nia," Evie called. "Who's at the door?" "Nobody," Nia whispered back. "Stay in the kitchen." Evan knocked again. 3 deliberate raps. "We need to finish our conversation from last night," he said through the door. "I've been patient, but my patience is running out." Nia pulled out her phone and dialed 911. Her finger hovered over the call button. What would she tell them? That her ex-boyfriend was knocking on her door? That wasn't illegal. "Nia." Evan's voice was closer now, like he had his mouth pressed to the door. "I can wait all night. I've got nowhere else to be." The phone slipped in Nia's sweaty palm. She wiped her hand on her jeans and tried to think. The fire escape was in her bedroom, but it was 3 stories up. Even if she could get Evie down the metal stairs, where would they go? "Talk to me," Evan said. "That's all I want. Just a conversation." Footsteps echoed in the stairwell below. Someone else was coming up. Nia heard a door open on the 2nd floor, then close again. The building was old, with thin walls and thinner doors. If Evan decided to force his way in, the deadbolt might hold, but the chain wouldn't. 5 minutes, Evan said. "Give me 5 minutes, and I'll leave you alone." "Liar," Nia whispered. Through the peephole, she could see Evan lean against the opposite wall. He was settling in for a long wait. Nia crept to the kitchen. Evie was standing by the window, looking down at the street. "There's a car parked outside," Evie said quietly. "Black sedan." The driver got out and went into the building. Nia's stomach dropped. What did he look like? Tall, dark hair, expensive coat, the man from the diner, the man who'd been following her all day. "Nia!" Evan's voice was louder now. "I'm not going anywhere." Footsteps echoed in the stairwell again, slower this time, more deliberate. Someone was climbing to the 3rd floor. Nia moved to the door and looked through the peephole. Evan was still leaning against the wall, but his head was turned toward the stairs. His posture had changed, more alert. A shadow appeared at the top of the stairwell. The man in the expensive coat stepped into view. He was taller than Evan and broader through the shoulders. His face was calm, but his eyes were cold. "You lost?" the man asked. His voice carried clearly through the thin door. Evan straightened up. "This is none of your business." "That's where you're wrong." The man moved closer to Evan, not aggressive, but purposeful, like he was claiming territory. "The lady asked you to leave," the man said. "So leave." "What lady?" "I don't see any lady." Evan's voice was defensive now. "I'm visiting my girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, and she doesn't want to see you." "How did he know that?" Nia pressed her eye closer to the peephole, trying to see more. "Who the hell are you?" Evan demanded. The man didn't answer. He reached inside his coat and pulled something out. Nia couldn't see what it was, but Evan took a step backward. "You've got the wrong idea," Evan said. His voice was higher now, less confident. "I'm just here to talk. Talk somewhere else." "This is harassment." "No, this is a suggestion. The harassment starts if you don't take it." Evan looked at the apartment door, then back at the man. Something passed between them that Nia couldn't read. "This isn't over," Evan said. "Yes, it is." Evan walked to the stairs, his footsteps quick and angry. The man waited until the sound faded, then approached Nia's door. He knocked once, soft and controlled. "Miss Carter," he said, "it's safe now." Nia's hands shook as she unlocked the deadbolt. She kept the chain on and cracked the door open. The man was standing in the hallway, his hands visible and empty. Up close, his face was younger than she'd expected, maybe 35, with sharp cheekbones and dark eyes that seemed to see everything. "How do you know my name?" Nia asked. "You wear a name tag." "Right, the diner." But that didn't explain how he knew about Evan, or why he was here. "Who are you?" "Someone who doesn't like bullies." The answer was vague, but his voice was steady. "Honest. Why are you following me?" "To make sure nothing happens to you." "Why?" The man hesitated. Something shifted in his expression, like he was deciding how much to tell her. "Because you don't deserve to be afraid," he said, finally. Nia studied his face through the crack in the door. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept. There were lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled sometimes, but not recently. "What's your name?" "Jae-min. Seo Jae-min." The name was Korean. It fit with his features, the careful way he spoke English. "Thank you," Nia said, "for making him leave. He won't come back tonight." "How do you know?" "Because I told him not to." There was something in his voice that made Nia believe him, a quiet certainty that suggested his words carried weight. "Will he come back tomorrow?" Jae-min was quiet for a moment. "Probably." At least he was honest. "I should call the police," Nia said. "You could, but what would you tell them? That he's threatening me." "Did he threaten you? In front of witnesses?" Nia thought about it. Evan had been careful with his words in the hallway, vague enough to avoid legal trouble. "No," she admitted. "Then the police can't help you." "Not yet, but you can. I can make sure he understands the consequences of bothering you." Nia felt something cold settle in her stomach. What kind of consequences? The kind that matter to people like him. There was something in Jae-min's voice that suggested violence, but his face remained calm, professional. "I don't want anyone to get hurt," Nia said. "Neither do I. But sometimes people need to be reminded of their boundaries." Evie appeared behind Nia, moving carefully with her cane. "Who is it, baby?" "A friend," Nia said, surprising herself. "He helped with Evan." Evie peered through the crack in the door. Her eyes were sharp as she studied Jae-min's face. "You look familiar," Evie said. "I come to the diner sometimes," Jae-min said. "Your niece makes good coffee." Evie smiled slightly. "She makes terrible coffee, but she's kind to the customers." Something in Jae-min's expression softened. "Yes, she is." "You married?" Evie asked bluntly. "Evie," Nia protested. "What? I'm asking." Evie looked at Jae-min expectantly. "No, ma'am, not anymore." "Good. Married men are nothing but trouble." Evie turned to Nia. "Invite him in for coffee." "I don't think. The man just scared off your stalker. Least we can do is offer him a cup of coffee." Nia looked at Jae-min through the crack in the door. He was watching her carefully, waiting for her decision. "Would you like some coffee?" she asked. "If it's not too much trouble." Nia unhooked the chain and opened the door. Jae-min stepped inside, his movements careful and controlled. He was taller than she'd realized, with broad shoulders that filled out his expensive coat. The apartment felt smaller with him in it. He stood near the door, hands at his sides, like he was ready to leave at any moment. "Sit," Evie commanded, pointing to the couch with her cane. "Make yourself comfortable." Jae-min sat on the edge of the couch, his posture straight. He looked around the small living room, taking in the second-hand furniture and the framed photos on the side table. Nia went to the kitchen and started the coffee maker. Her hands were steadier now that Evan was gone, but she could still feel the adrenaline in her system. "How long has this been going on?" Jae-min asked. "A few weeks. Since I broke up with him." Nia measured coffee into the filter. "He says I owe him money." "Do you?" "No. He helped with my aunt's medical bills, but I never agreed to pay him back." Jae-min was quiet for a moment. "What kind of help?" "Hospital bills, prescription costs, physical therapy." Nia's voice was tight. "I was working 2 jobs, but it wasn't enough. So he offered to help. At first, then it became expected, then it became control." "How much?" Nia hesitated. The number was embarrassing, a reminder of how helpless she'd been. 12,000, she said quietly. Jae-min didn't react. No surprise or judgment, just acceptance. "That's a lot of medical bills," he said. "Stroke recovery is expensive." The coffee maker gurgled to life. Nia pulled 3 mugs from the cabinet and waited for the pot to fill. "Do you have family?" Jae-min asked. "Besides your aunt?" "No. My parents died when I was 16. Evie's all I have." "No siblings?" "No." Jae-min nodded slowly. "So you're alone?" "I have Evie, but you're responsible for both of you." Nia poured the coffee and carried 2 mugs to the living room. Jae-min accepted his with a slight nod. "Thank you." Evie had settled into her recliner, her cane propped against the armrest. She studied Jaemin over the rim of her mug. "What do you do for work?" Evie asked. "I manage investments." "What kind of investments?" "Various kinds." It was a vague answer, but Evie seemed satisfied. She sipped her coffee and continued watching him. "You have family here?" Evie asked. "Some." "Wife? Children?" Jaemin's cup paused halfway to his lips. "No." Something in his voice suggested the topic was closed. Evie seemed to understand. "Well," she said, "family's not just blood." Jaemin looked at her with new interest. "No, it's not." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Outside, the city was settling into evening. Traffic sounds drifted up from the street, mixed with the distant hum of air conditioners. "What happens now?" Naya asked. "Now you go about your life," Jaemin said. "Work, take care of your aunt. Normal things. And Evan? Evan will find other ways to occupy his time." There was something final in Jaemin's voice, like the matter was already settled. "How can you be sure?" "Because I'll make sure." Nia felt a chill run down her spine. "I don't want you to hurt him. I won't hurt him unless he makes me." "What does that mean?" Jaemin set down his coffee mug and looked at her directly. His eyes were dark and serious. "It means I'll give him a choice. He can walk away and forget about you, or he can deal with the consequences of not walking away. And if he chooses not to walk away, then he'll learn why that was the wrong choice." Naya felt her stomach tighten. She didn't want to be responsible for violence, even against Evan. "There has to be another way," she said. "There is. He could choose to leave you alone. But if he doesn't?" Jaemin was quiet for a long moment. "Then I'll do what I have to do to keep you safe." The words hung in the air between them. Nia could feel the weight of them, the promise and the threat wrapped together. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you care what happens to me?" Jaemin looked down at his hands. They were clean and manicured, with a thin scar across the knuckles of his right hand. "Because everyone deserves to feel safe," he said finally. It wasn't a complete answer, but it was honest. Nia could see that much in his face. "I should go," Jaemin said. He stood up from the couch, his movements fluid and controlled. "Thank you," Nia said, "for tonight. Don't thank me yet." "Why not?" "Because this isn't over. It's just beginning." Jaemin walked to the door. Nia followed, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. "Will I see you again?" she asked. "Probably. I like the coffee at your diner." Despite everything, Nia almost smiled. "I thought you said I made good coffee." "I lied. Your aunt's right. It's terrible." This time, Nia did smile. "Just a little." "Then why do you keep coming?" Jaemin paused with his hand on the doorknob. For a moment, his composed mask slipped, and she saw something vulnerable underneath. "Because you're kind to strangers," he said quietly. "That's rare." Then he was gone, leaving Naya standing in the doorway with her heart beating too fast. She locked the door behind him and slid the chain back into place. But this time, the locks felt less like protection and more like habit. "Interesting man," Evie said from her chair. "He's a stranger. So was I, once. Before your parents died." Nia joined her aunt in the living room. The coffee mug sat on the table, still warm. "Do you trust him?" Nia asked. "I trust that he cares about what happens to you." "How can you tell?" "The way he looked at your bruise, like it made him angry." Nia touched her split lip unconsciously. "Lots of things make people angry. Not like that. That was personal anger, the kind that makes a person do dangerous things." "Is that good or bad?" Evie was quiet for a moment. "I don't know yet." They finished their coffee in silence. Outside, the city grew darker. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed and faded. At 9 o'clock, Naya's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Sleep well." But this time, the message didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a promise. Nia looked out the living room window. The black sedan was parked across the street, engine off. She couldn't see the driver, but she knew he was there. Watching, waiting, protecting. For the first time in weeks, Nia slept through the night without waking. But in her dreams, she heard the sound of breaking glass and footsteps in the hall. And when she tried to run, her legs wouldn't move fast enough. Even with a guardian angel in a black sedan, some fears were harder to shake than others. Morning came too quickly. Naya woke to the sound of her phone buzzing on the nightstand. She reached for it with eyes still closed, expecting a text from Evie about her morning pills. Instead, she found 3 missed calls from an unknown number and 1 voicemail. Nia sat up in bed, suddenly alert. She played the voicemail on speaker, keeping the volume low so she wouldn't wake Evie. Heavy breathing. Then a familiar voice. You think some Korean gangster is going to protect you forever? Think again. The message ended. Nia stared at the phone, her heart hammering against her ribs. Evan had gotten a new number. Again. She deleted the voicemail and blocked the number, but her hands were shaking. How many phones did he have? How many numbers could he cycle through before she ran out of ways to block him? In the kitchen, Evie was already awake, sitting at the table with her coffee and the morning crossword. She looked up when Nia appeared in the doorway. You look tired, baby. Bad dreams? Nia poured herself coffee and checked the locks on the front door. Still secure. The same dreams. Nia had been having nightmares since the night at the bus stop. Dreams where Evan caught her in the alley, where no one came to help, where his hands found her throat. Yeah, the same ones. Evie set down her pen and studied Nia's face. Maybe you should take the day off. I can't. We need the money. We need you healthy more than we need the money. It was a kind thought, but not practical. The rent was due in 2 weeks, and Evie's prescription costs ate up most of Nia's paycheck. Taking a day off meant falling further behind. I'll be fine. The diner's safe during the day. And after work? Nia looked out the kitchen window. The black sedan was still parked across the street, but she couldn't see if anyone was inside. I think we have help with that. Evie followed her gaze. The man from last night? Maybe. You don't sound sure. I'm not sure about anything anymore. Nia showered and dressed for work, covering the bruise on her cheek with makeup. The split lip was healing, but it still ached when she smiled. Before leaving, she checked her phone again. No new messages, but the blocked numbers in her call log had multiplied overnight. Evan was working through burner phones faster than she could block them. Lock the door behind me, Nia told Evie. Don't answer it unless you're sure who it is. I know the drill, and if anything feels wrong, I'll call the police. I know. Nia kissed her aunt's forehead and left the apartment. In the hallway, she paused and listened. No footsteps, no voices. Just the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of traffic. Outside, the morning was crisp and clear. The black sedan's windows were tinted too dark to see inside, but the engine was running. Exhaust drifted from the tailpipe in small white puffs. Nia walked to the bus stop, her shoulders tense. Behind her, the sedan's engine grew quieter as it pulled away from the curb. She didn't look back, but she could feel it following. At the bus stop, she sat on the bench and waited. 3 minutes until the next bus arrived. Long enough to think, which was dangerous. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Running late for work. Don't want to disappoint your customers. Nia blocked the number and deleted the message, but her hands were shaking again. Evan was watching. Somehow, he knew her schedule, her routines. The thought made her stomach turn. The bus arrived on time. Nia got on and found a seat near the front, where the driver could see her. Through the window, she watched the black sedan fall into line 2 cars behind the bus. At her stop, Nia got off and walked the 3 blocks to the diner. The sedan drove past without stopping, but she saw it turn right at the next intersection. Circling, the diner was busy with the morning rush. Nia tied on her apron and got to work, grateful for the distraction. Order tickets and coffee refills and the familiar rhythm of service. At 9:30, Jamin appeared in his usual corner booth. Nia approached with coffee and a menu, trying to keep her expression neutral. In daylight, he looked younger than she'd expected, maybe 34 or 35, with tired eyes and careful hands. Good morning, she said. Coffee, black. She poured his cup and set it down. Their eyes met briefly, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. Anything to eat? She asked. Toast, dry. Nia wrote down the order and walked to the kitchen. When she returned with his toast, Jamin was reading his phone. But she could feel his attention on her, tracking her movements around the diner. Is everything all right? He asked quietly. Nia glanced around. The other customers were focused on their own meals and conversations. No one was listening. He called this morning. New number. Jamin's jaw tightened slightly. What did he say? That you won't protect me forever? He's right. I won't. The words hit Nia harder than she'd expected. What? I won't protect you forever. I'll protect you for as long as necessary. There was a difference, and Nia could hear it in his voice. Forever suggested obligation. As long as necessary suggested choice. How long is that? Until he stops being a problem. And if he never stops? Jamin looked up from his phone. His eyes were dark and serious. Then he'll stop being anything else. A chill ran down Naya's spine. She opened her mouth to respond, but the bell above the door chimed. Another customer entered, and she had to get back to work. But Jamin's words stayed with her. Then he'll stop being anything else. What did that mean? And why did the thought of it make her feel safer and more frightened at the same time? The morning passed quickly. Jamin finished his coffee and toast, left a $20 bill on the table, and disappeared without a word. The tip was generous, but Naya was starting to understand it wasn't charity. It was payment for information. A transaction. At lunchtime, her phone buzzed with another unknown number. Saw your boyfriend at the diner. Looks expensive. Wonder how long his patience will last. Naya blocked the number but kept the message. Evidence. She was building a file, even if she wasn't sure what to do with it yet. The lunch rush began, and Nia forgot about Evan and Jamin and everything else except order tickets and coffee refills. Work was a refuge, a place where her problems couldn't follow. But at 2 o'clock, during her break, she stepped outside and saw Evan across the street. He was leaning against a lamppost, smoking a cigarette. When he saw her, he smiled and waved. Naya's blood turned to ice. She pulled out her phone and took a picture, but Evan was already walking away, hands in his pockets. A black sedan pulled up to the curb. Jamin got out, his movements smooth and controlled. He looked at the spot where Evan had been standing, then at Nia. "Inside," he said quietly. "I'm on my break." "Inside, now." Something in his voice made Nia obey. She followed him back into the diner, her heart pounding. Jamin chose a table near the window where he could watch the street. Nia sat across from him, her hands folded in her lap. "How long was he there?" Jamin asked. "I don't know. I just saw him when I came outside." "What did he do?" "Nothing." He smiled and waved, then walked away. Jamin was quiet for a moment, studying the street through the window. "He's testing," Jamin said finally. "Testing what?" "How close he can get, how long he can stay, how much I'll tolerate." "And how much will you tolerate?" Jamin looked at her directly. "None of it." "Then why didn't you go after him?" "Because he wants me to. He wants to make this about him and me, instead of about you." Nia felt confusion settle in her chest. "Isn't it about me? To him, you're property. To me, you're a person. To him, this is about ownership. To me, this is about choice." "My choice?" "Your choice to be safe, your choice to be free, your choice to live without fear." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Nia could feel the sincerity behind them. "Why do you care about my choices?" Jamin was quiet for a long moment. His hands rested on the table, and Nia could see the thin scar across his knuckles. "Because someone should," he said finally. It wasn't a complete answer, but it was honest. Nia could see that much in his face. "My break's over," she said. "I need to get back to work." "I'll be here until your shift ends." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." Nia wanted to argue, but something in his expression stopped her. This wasn't negotiable. Not anymore. The afternoon passed slowly. Jamin sat at his table, nursing coffee and watching the street. Other customers came and went, but he remained, a constant presence in her peripheral vision. At 4 o'clock, her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. "Your bodyguard can't watch you every second. I'll be waiting when he's not." Nia blocked the number and showed the message to Jamin during her next pass by his table. He read it without expression. "He's getting impatient," Jamin said. "Is that good or bad?" "Impatient people make mistakes." "What kind of mistakes?" "The kind that give me reasons to act." At 6 o'clock, Naya's shift ended. She clocked out and gathered her things, dreading the walk to the bus stop. But when she stepped outside, Jamin was waiting by his sedan. "I'll drive you home," he said. "That's not necessary." "It's necessary." Naya looked down the street toward the bus stop. Empty except for an elderly man with a newspaper. But Evan could be anywhere, watching from windows or doorways or parked cars. "Okay," she said. The sedan was warm inside, with leather seats and the faint scent of expensive cologne. Jamin drove carefully, checking his mirrors frequently. "Do you think he'll give up?" Nia asked. "No." "Then what happens?" "He escalates. Tries something more direct." Nia felt fear settle in her stomach. "Like what?" "Like approaching your aunt when you're not there." The thought made Nia's chest tighten. He wouldn't. She's an old woman. He would. Men like Evan have no boundaries when they feel desperate. They stopped at a red light. In the intersection, pedestrians crossed with purpose. heading home from work or school. Normal people living normal lives. How do you know so much about men like Evan? Nia asked. Jae-min was quiet for a moment. Because I deal with them professionally. What kind of profession deals with stalkers? The kind that solves problems other people can't solve. It was a vague answer, but something in his tone suggested she shouldn't push for details. Are you a private investigator? Something like that. The light turned green. Jae-min drove through the intersection, his hands steady on the steering wheel. They reached Nia's building, and Jae-min parked in front. Through the windshield, Nia could see the familiar steps and the buzzer panel by the front door. Thank you, she said. For the ride, I'll walk you up. That's not necessary. I know. Jae-min turned off the engine. But I'm going to do it anyway. They got out of the sedan and walked to the building entrance. Nia used her key and held the door open. In the hallway, their footsteps echoed on the tile floor. On the third floor, Nia paused outside her apartment door. She could hear the television inside, the familiar sound of Evie's evening news program. Everything sounds normal, Jae-min said. Nia unlocked the door and called out as she entered. Evie, I'm home. In the kitchen, baby. Nia found her aunt making dinner, stirring something that smelled like chicken soup. Evie looked up when Jae-min appeared in the doorway. Mr. Seo, she said. Nice to see you again. Mrs. Carter, how are you feeling today? Better, now that Nia's home safe. Jae-min nodded slowly. Has anyone come by? Phone calls? Unexpected visitors? No, it's been quiet. Good. Keep it that way. Evie studied his face. You think he'll come here? I think he'll try whatever he thinks will work. Then we'll be ready. There was steel in Evie's voice that surprised Nia. Her aunt had always been gentle, focused on healing and nurturing. But underneath the softness was strength. I should go, Jae-min said. Let you have dinner in peace. Stay, Evie said. There's enough soup for 3. Jae-min hesitated. I don't want to impose. You're not imposing. You're being invited. Something in Jae-min's expression shifted. Surprise, maybe. Or gratitude. If you're sure it's no trouble at all. They ate dinner at the small kitchen table, sharing bowls of soup and slices of bread. The conversation was careful but warm, touching on safe topics. The weather, the news, Evie's physical therapy progress. But underneath the normalcy, tension hummed. Everyone was listening for footsteps in the hall, for knocks on the door, for the sound of Nia's phone buzzing with another threatening message. At 8 o'clock, Jae-min's phone rang. He answered it quietly, speaking in Korean. Nia caught fragments of the conversation, but she didn't understand the language. When he hung up, his expression had changed, more focused, alert. I have to go, he said. Business. Will you be back? Nia asked. Tomorrow. I'll check on you tomorrow. He gathered his coat and moved toward the door. Nia followed, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. Thank you, she said. For dinner. For everything. Don't thank me yet. You keep saying that. Because it's true. This situation isn't resolved. Jae-min paused with his hand on the doorknob. For a moment, his composed mask slipped, and Nia saw something underneath. Worry, maybe even fear. What aren't you telling me? She asked. That men like Evan don't give up easily. That they escalate when they feel cornered. That sometimes, the only way to stop them is to make them stop. What does that mean? It means you might have to make choices you don't want to make. What kind of choices? Jae-min looked at her directly. Whether you trust me enough to let me handle this my way. And what's your way? Whatever it takes to keep you safe. The words hung in the air between them. Nia could feel the weight of them, the promise and the threat wrapped together. I don't want anyone to get hurt, she said. Neither do I. But sometimes hurt is inevitable, even if the person deserves it, especially if the person deserves it. Jae-min left without another word, his footsteps echoing in the hallway until they faded. Nia locked the door behind him and slid the chain into place. But this time, the locks felt less like protection and more like a delay. Whatever was coming, it would come whether the door was locked or not. In the kitchen, Evie was cleaning the dishes. She looked up when Nia appeared in the doorway. He's a good man, Evie said. How can you tell? The way he looks at you. Like you matter. Maybe I matter because I'm useful to him somehow. Maybe. Or maybe you matter because you're you. Nia wasn't sure which possibility was more frightening. At 10 o'clock, her phone buzzed. A new unknown number. Sweet dreams. See you tomorrow. Nia blocked the number and turned off her phone. But sleep didn't come easily. Every sound in the building made her tense. Every car that passed on the street made her wonder if it was Evan, circling the block. At midnight, she got up and looked out the living room window. The black sedan was parked across the street, engine off. She couldn't see the driver, but she knew he was there, watching, waiting, protecting. But for how long, and at what cost? Nia returned to bed and tried to sleep. But in her dreams, she heard the sound of breaking glass and footsteps in the hall, and when she tried to run, her legs wouldn't move fast enough. Even with a guardian angel in a black sedan, some fears were harder to shake than others. Morning brought new problems. Nia woke to find 5 missed calls from unknown numbers and a voicemail that made her blood run cold. "Time's up, Nia. Your Korean friend can't protect you forever, and when he's gone, I'll be waiting." But this time, the voice wasn't Evan's. It was deeper, older, with the kind of authority that came from being obeyed. Someone who was used to giving orders and having them followed. Nia played the message twice, her hands shaking. Who was this man, and what did he want with her? She saved the voicemail and took screenshots of all the missed calls. Evidence. She was building a file, even though she wasn't sure what good it would do. In the kitchen, Evie was sitting at the table with her coffee and crossword. She looked up when Nia appeared, and her smile faded when she saw Nia's face. "What's wrong, baby?" Nia played the voicemail on speaker. Evie's face grew pale as she listened. "That's not Evan," Evie said. "No, it's someone else. Someone Evan knows, maybe. Or someone who knows about Evan." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the new threat settling between them. "What do we do?" Evie asked. "I don't know." But even as Nia said it, she knew there was only one person who might have answers: Jaemin. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than Evan now. Bigger than a simple stalking case. And Nia had the feeling that before it was over, she was going to have to make the kind of choices Jaemin had warned her about. The kind of choices that changed everything. Nia didn't go to work that morning. Instead, she called in sick and waited by the window, watching the street for any sign of the black sedan. At 9:30, her phone rang. Jaemin's number. "You didn't come to work," he said without preamble. "I got another call." A different voice. The silence stretched for a long moment. When Jaemin spoke again, his tone had changed. Sharper, more focused. "Play it for me." Nia put the phone on speaker and played the voicemail. Evie moved closer, her cane tapping softly on the hardwood floor. When the message ended, Jaemin was quiet for so long that Nia thought the call had dropped. "Jaemin, I'm here. Stay inside. Don't answer the door for anyone, except me." Who was that man? "Someone who shouldn't know your name." The line went dead. Nia stared at her phone, fear settling in her stomach like a stone. "He knows who it was," Evie said. "Yeah, and he's scared. Men like him don't get scared easily." Nia thought about Jaemin's controlled movements, his careful words, the way he seemed to see everything at once. Evie was right. Whatever had put that edge in his voice was serious. They spent the morning in tense silence. Evie worked on her crossword, while Nia paced between the kitchen and the living room, checking the locks and watching the street. At 11 o'clock, someone knocked on the door. 3 slow knocks, deliberate. Nia's breath caught. She moved to the peephole and looked out. A woman stood in the hallway. Asian, maybe 58, with grey-streaked hair and a kind face. She wore a simple black coat and carried a large handbag. "Who is it?" the woman called softly. "I'm looking for Nia Carter. My name is Mrs. Park. Jaemin sent me." Nia hesitated. The woman looked harmless, but Evan had proven that appearances could be deceiving. "How do I know Jaemin sent you? He said to tell you that your coffee is terrible, but your kindness makes up for it." That sounded like something Jaemin would say. Nia unhooked the chain and opened the door. Mrs. Park smiled warmly. "May I come in?" Nia stepped aside. Mrs. Park entered the apartment, her movements careful and respectful. She nodded politely to Evie, who was watching from her chair. "You must be Mrs. Carter. I'm pleased to meet you." "Likewise. Would you like some coffee?" Mrs. Park's eyes crinkled with gentle humor. "I've heard about your niece's coffee. Perhaps tea instead." Despite everything, Nia almost smiled. "I'll make tea." While the water heated, Mrs. Park sat at the kitchen table with Evie. They talked quietly about the weather and the neighborhood, but Nia could feel the woman's attention on her, assessing and protective. "Where is Jaemin?" Nia asked as she served the tea. "Handling the situation," Mrs. Park said. "He asked me to stay with you until he returns." "What situation?" Mrs. Park sipped her tea and studied Naya's face. How much has he told you about his work? Not much. Something about managing investments. In a way, that's true. He manages difficult investments, situations that require careful handling. What kind of situations? The kind where people forget their manners. There was steel underneath Mrs. Park's gentle tone. Nia felt a chill run down her spine. Is Evan one of those people? Evan is a small fish, but sometimes small fish swim with bigger sharks. The man who called this morning? Mrs. Park nodded slowly. His name is Min Tae-sik. He runs certain businesses in the city. Businesses that don't like competition or interference. What does that have to do with me? Your ex-boyfriend owes him money. Gambling debts. When Evan couldn't pay, he offered something else as collateral. Nia's stomach dropped. Me. You. The word hung in the air between them. Nia felt the room spin slightly, and she gripped the edge of the table. That's not possible. People aren't collateral. In Min's world, everything has a price, including people. Evie's teacup rattled against its saucer. That's slavery. It's business, Mrs. Park said quietly. Ugly business, but business nonetheless. Nia felt anger rise in her chest, hot and sharp. I'm not property. Evan can't trade me to pay his debts. You're right, but that doesn't stop men like Min from trying to collect. So, what happens now? Mrs. Park was quiet for a moment. Jae-min is explaining to Min that you're under protection, that any attempt to collect would be unwise. And if Min doesn't listen, then Jae-min will find other ways to make his point clear. There was something final in Mrs. Park's voice, something that suggested violence, though her face remained kind. I don't want anyone to get hurt because of me, Nia said. Sometimes, hurt is inevitable. The only choice is who gets hurt. It was almost exactly what Jae-min had said. Nia wondered if it was a philosophy they shared, or if Mrs. Park was simply repeating his words. Who is Jae-min, really? Nia asked. Mrs. Park studied her face for a long moment, as if deciding how much truth to share. He's a man who lost everything once, and he's determined not to let it happen again. What did he lose? His family, his wife and unborn child. Nia felt something cold settle in her chest. How? Men like Min, men who thought they could take whatever they wanted without consequences. The pieces clicked into place. Jae-min's controlled fury when he'd seen her bruise, his certainty that Evan would escalate, his willingness to use violence as a tool. He's been where I am, Nia said. Not exactly, but close enough. Is that why he's helping me? Partly, but not entirely. What's the other part? Mrs. Park smiled slightly. You'll have to ask him that yourself. They spent the afternoon in careful conversation. Mrs. Park told stories about her garden and her grandchildren, normal things that made the apartment feel safer. But underneath the normalcy, tension hummed. Every car that passed on the street made Nia look up. Every sound in the hallway made her tense. At 4 o'clock, Jae-min returned. Nia heard his footsteps on the stairs, quick and purposeful. He knocked once, and Mrs. Park opened the door before Nia could move. Is it finished? Mrs. Park asked in English, though Nia suspected they usually spoke Korean. For now, Jae-min entered the apartment, his coat wrinkled and his hair slightly mussed. There was a small cut on his lower lip that hadn't been there that morning. Are you hurt? Nia asked. No, but his hands were scraped, and she could see tension in his shoulders that suggested the day had been difficult. What happened? Min and I had a conversation about boundaries. Just a conversation. A very clear conversation. Jae-min moved to the kitchen sink and washed his hands carefully, scrubbing under his fingernails. The water ran pink for a moment before clearing. Nia felt her stomach tighten. Whose blood is that? Not mine. Jae-min. Min understands now that you're not available for collection. The debt between him and Evan will have to be settled another way. What way? That's not your concern. But it was her concern. Nia could see that now. Everything was connected. Evan's desperation, Min's business, Jae-min's protection. She was at the center of it all, whether she wanted to be or not. I should leave, she said suddenly. Leave the city. Take Evie somewhere safe. Where? Jae-min asked. Men like Min have long memories and longer reach. Running would only delay the problem. Then what do you suggest? That you trust me to handle it. By doing what? Jae-min dried his hands on a kitchen towel, his movements careful and controlled. Whatever is necessary. Mrs. Park gathered her handbag and moved toward the door. I'll check on the house, she said to Jae-min. Make sure everything is ready. What house? Nia asked. Mrs. Park and Jae-min exchanged a look. Something passed between them that Nia couldn't read. A safe place, Jae-min said. If you need it. I'm not leaving my home. You might not have a choice. After Mrs. Park left, Jae-min sat at the kitchen table across from Nia and Evie. His face was serious, but gentle. Tell me about your aunt's medical needs, he said. Medications, appointments, special equipment. Why? Because if you have to relocate temporarily, I need to know what arrangements to make. Nia felt panic flutter in her chest. We're not relocating. This is our home. This is an apartment with thin walls and weak locks. It's not defensible if Min decides to escalate. He won't escalate. You said you had a conversation. I convinced him to back off temporarily. But Min doesn't like being told no. He'll look for other ways to apply pressure. What kind of pressure? The kind that puts your aunt in danger. Evie had been quiet during the conversation, but now she spoke up. What exactly are you suggesting? She asked Jae-min. That you both come to my house until this situation is resolved. For how long? As long as necessary. Nia felt claustrophobia close around her like a fist. We can't just disappear from our lives. I have work. Evie has doctor's appointments. I'll handle your work. Mrs. Park is a retired nurse. She can manage your aunt's medical care. You've thought of everything. I've tried to. Except asking what we want. Jae-min was quiet for a moment. What do you want? To feel safe in our own home. That's not possible anymore. The words hit Nia like a slap. She stood up from the table and walked to the window, looking down at the street. A few pedestrians hurried past in the evening light, heading home from work. Normal people living normal lives. How long? She asked without turning around. I don't know. Best guess. A few days. Maybe a week. And then? Then this problem goes away. Nia turned back to face him. What does that mean? It means you won't have to worry about Evan or Min anymore. Because they'll be dead? Jae-min's expression didn't change. Because they'll no longer be in a position to threaten you. It wasn't a denial. Nia could see that much in his face. I can't be responsible for people dying. You're not responsible. They are. That's not how it feels. Jae-min stood up and moved closer to her, but not close enough to be threatening. His voice was soft when he spoke. Nia, look at me. She met his eyes reluctantly. You didn't create this situation. Evan did when he decided to stalk you. Min did when he decided to treat you like property. I'm offering you a way out that doesn't involve police reports or court cases or waiting for them to escalate further. Your way involves violence. My way involves consequences. Sometimes those are the same thing. Nia looked at her aunt, who was watching the conversation with sharp eyes. What do you think? Nia asked. Evie was quiet for a long moment. I think we're already living with violence. The question is whether we want to be victims of it or protected from it. Protected at what cost? That's what we need to decide. The apartment felt smaller suddenly, as if the walls were closing in. Nia could feel the weight of the choice pressing down on her. Stay and risk escalation, or go with Jae-min and accept whatever consequences came with his protection. If we come with you, Nia said slowly. What are the rules? You stay inside the house unless I'm with you. You don't contact anyone without clearing it through me first. You follow Mrs. Park's instructions when I'm not there. Sounds like prison. It's temporary. You keep saying that. Because it's true. Nia walked back to the kitchen table and sat down. Her hands were shaking, and she folded them in her lap to hide it. I need to think. You have until tomorrow morning, Jae-min said. After that, the choice might be made for you. What does that mean? It means Min is impatient, and impatient men make dangerous decisions. As if summoned by his words, Nia's phone buzzed. A new, unknown number with a text message, 24 hours. Just 2 words. But they felt like a countdown. Jae-min looked at the message and his jaw tightened. That's faster than I expected. What happens in 24 hours? They come for you. The words hung in the air between them. Nia could feel her heartbeat in her ears, fast and loud. Then we don't have a choice, Evie said quietly. Evie, we go with him, baby, tonight. Nia wanted to argue, but the fear in her aunt's voice stopped her. Evie was scared, truly scared, for the first time since her stroke. Okay, Nia said. We'll come with you. Tonight? Tonight. Jae-min nodded once. Pack light. Essentials only. Mrs. Park will arrange for anything else you need. They spent the next hour packing. Nia filled 2 small suitcases with clothes and toiletries, while Evie gathered her medications and a few personal items. The apartment felt different as they prepared to leave it, like they were abandoning something precious and irreplaceable. "Ready?" Jae-min asked as they gathered by the door. Nia looked around the living room one last time. The second-hand furniture, the framed photos, the small touches that made it home. "Ready." They left the apartment together, Jae-min carrying both suitcases and helping Evie down the stairs. In the hallway, their footsteps echoed too loudly. Outside, the black sedan waited by the curb. Jae-min loaded their luggage, while Nia helped Evie into the back seat. As they pulled away from the building, Nia looked back through the rear window. The apartment building grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared around a corner. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Home," Jae-min said. But it wasn't her home. It was his, and Nia had no idea what she was walking into. The sedan climbed into the hills above the city, following winding roads that grew progressively quieter and more exclusive. The houses were larger here, set back from the street behind gates and walls. 20 minutes later, they turned into a driveway marked by tall iron gates. Jae-min pressed a button on his visor, and the gates swung open silently. The house beyond was modern but warm. All clean lines and large windows. Soft lights glowed from inside, welcoming and safe. Mrs. Park met them at the front door, her smile genuine and reassuring. "Welcome," she said to Evie. "Your room is ready." They entered through a foyer that opened onto a spacious living room. Everything was tasteful and expensive, but not ostentatious. Comfortable. "Mrs. Park will show you to your rooms," Jae-min said. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll figure out the next steps." But as Nia followed Mrs. Park up a curved staircase, she couldn't shake the feeling that the next steps had already been decided, and whatever they were, there would be no going back. The guest room was larger than Nia's entire apartment. Soft grey walls, white linens, and a view of the city lights through floor-to-ceiling windows. Mrs. Park had left pajamas on the bed and towels in the adjoining bathroom. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. Nia sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her phone. No new messages from Evan or Min's people. The silence felt worse than the threats. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." Evie entered, wearing a borrowed nightgown that was too long for her small frame. She moved carefully with her cane, taking in the elegant room. "This is fancy," Evie said. "Too fancy. Nothing wrong with nice things." Nia patted the bed, and Evie sat beside her. Through the windows, the city sprawled below them like scattered diamonds. "Are we doing the right thing?" Nia asked. "I don't know, but we're doing the safe thing. Those aren't always the same." Evie was quiet for a moment. "That man downstairs, Jae-min, he cares about you. He barely knows me. Sometimes caring doesn't take long." Nia thought about the way Jae-min had looked at her bruise, the careful distance he maintained, asking permission with his eyes, the controlled fury when he'd heard Min's threat. "He's dangerous, Evie. So is the world, baby. Sometimes dangerous protects you from dangerous." Another knock, this one firmer. Jae-min's voice. "Nia, may I speak with you?" Evie squeezed Nia's hand and stood up. "Get some rest after. Tomorrow will bring what it brings." Nia opened the door. Jae-min stood in the hallway, changed into dark jeans and a plain white shirt. He looked younger without his expensive suits, more human. "Walk with me?" he asked. They went downstairs to the living room. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace, and soft jazz played from hidden speakers. Mrs. Park had disappeared, leaving them alone. Jae-min poured 2 glasses of wine from a bottle on the side table. He offered one to Nia, who accepted it gratefully. "Thank you," she said, "for all of this." "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do. You've upended your life for a stranger." Jae-min was quiet for a moment. "You're not a stranger anymore." Something in his voice made Nia's chest tighten. "What am I then?" He looked at her directly, his dark eyes serious. "Someone I can't let get hurt." "Why?" "Because I've seen what happens when good people get crushed by bad ones. I've lived with the consequences of not acting fast enough." Nia remembered what Mrs. Park had said about his wife and unborn child. "Tell me about your family." Pain flickered across Jae-min's face, there and gone so quickly she almost missed it. "Her name was Sujin. We'd been married 2 years when she got pregnant." His voice was carefully controlled. "She was excited about the baby. Started buying things right away. Blankets, toys, a music box that played lullabies. What happened? I made an enemy, a man named Chen, who thought I'd disrespected him in a business deal." Jae-min took a sip of wine, his hand steady. "I didn't take his threats seriously. I thought he was all talk. But he wasn't. He sent men to my house while I was at work. They were supposed to rough up Sujin, send me a message. Jaemin's jaw tightened. But she fought back. She was always stubborn that way. Nia felt something cold settle in her stomach. Jaemin. They pushed her down the stairs. She hit her head on the marble floor. His voice never wavered, but Nia could see the cost of the words in his eyes. She died at the hospital. The baby died with her. I'm so sorry. I killed Chen 3 days later. Not his men. Him personally. With my bare hands. The confession hung between them. Nia should have been frightened, should have pulled away. Instead, she felt a strange sort of understanding. Do you regret it? No. I regret not killing him sooner. They sat in silence for a moment. The fire popped and settled, sending shadows dancing across the walls. Is that why you help people like me? Partly, but not entirely. What's the other part? Jaemin set down his wine glass and moved closer to her on the couch, not touching, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. Because you remind me that not everyone in this world is broken. I am broken. We both know that. No, you're hurt. There's a difference. Is there? Broken can't be fixed. Hurt heals, given time and care. Something in his voice made Nia's heart skip. Is that what this is? Care, among other things. What other things? Jaemin looked at her for a long moment, like he was memorizing her face. I think you know. Nia's breath caught. There was something in his eyes that made her feel exposed and safe at the same time. Jaemin. His phone rang, cutting through the moment. He answered it quickly, speaking in rapid Korean. Whatever he heard made his expression harden. When? He asked in English. More Korean from the other end. No. Keep watching. Call me if anything changes. He hung up and turned back to Nia. Min's people were seen near your building an hour ago. Looking for us? Looking for information. Talking to your neighbors. Asking questions. Fear spiked in Nia's chest. Mrs. Chen in 2B. She's got grandchildren who visit. If these men scare them, they won't hurt civilians. That would bring police attention Min can't afford. How can you be sure? Because Min's smart. Ruthless, but smart. He knows the difference between pressure and chaos. But doubt lingered in Nia's mind. She'd brought danger to her building, to innocent people who'd done nothing except live in the same place she did. I should never have left, she said. Leaving was the only choice that made sense. For who? For me or for you? Jaemin was quiet for a moment. For both of us. What does that mean? It means this situation isn't just about protecting you anymore. It's about what happens after. After what? After I deal with Min and Evan permanently. There was finality in his voice that made Nia shiver. What happens then? Then you're free to make choices about your life without fear, including the choice to leave. Something flickered in Jaemin's eyes. Including that choice. But his voice suggested it wasn't the choice he wanted her to make. They finished their wine in comfortable silence. Outside, the city glittered like broken glass, beautiful and dangerous. I should let you get some rest, Jaemin said finally. I don't think I can sleep. Try. Tomorrow will be difficult. What happens tomorrow? Min's deadline expires. He'll expect an answer to his demands. What demands? I thought you convinced him to back off. I convinced him to give me 24 hours to consider his proposal. Nia felt confusion settle in her chest. What proposal? Jaemin was quiet for too long. He wants to meet with you. To discuss the terms of Evan's debt directly. You're not considering it. I'm considering all options. Jaemin, no. I won't be used as collateral in some negotiation. You won't be collateral. You'll be bait. The words hit Nia like a physical blow. Bait? Min wants to meet you in a public place, neutral ground. He thinks he can intimidate you into cooperating. And you want to let him try? I want to end this cleanly, with minimal collateral damage. Nia stood up from the couch, anger flaring in her chest. Collateral damage? Is that what I am to you? No. Jaemin stood too, his movements careful. You're the opposite of collateral damage. Then why are you talking about using me as bait? Because it's the fastest way to get Min in a vulnerable position. Vulnerable to what? To consequences. There was that word again. Consequences. Nia was starting to hate the sound of it. What if something goes wrong? What if he doesn't come alone, or he decides to take me anyway? Then I'll stop him. How? However I have to. With violence. If necessary. Nia began pacing the length of the living room, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. There has to be another way. There is. I could kill him tonight, at his home, while he sleeps, but that would start a war with his organization, and the bait plan doesn't? The bait plan makes it look like self-defense, or business gone wrong, easier to contain. Nia stopped pacing and stared at him. You've done this before. Yes. How many times? Enough to know what works. That's not an answer. Jae-min moved closer to her, his voice gentle but firm. Nia, some questions are better left unasked. Because you think I can't handle the truth. Because I think the truth won't change anything except how you look at me. Maybe that needs to change. Maybe. But not tonight. They stared at each other across the elegant living room. Two people from different worlds, bound together by circumstances neither had chosen. If I agree to this, Nia said slowly, what guarantees do I have? My word. That's it? That's everything. Something in his voice made her believe him. Against all logic, against all caution, she believed him. When? Tomorrow afternoon. A coffee shop downtown. Public, but not too crowded. Will you be there? Close enough to act, far enough away that Min won't feel ambushed. How close? Close enough. It wasn't a detailed answer, but it was honest. And honesty, Nia was learning, was all she could expect in this situation. I need to think about it. You have until morning. And if I say no, then we find another way. A more violent way, probably. At least he was honest. Nia walked toward the staircase, then paused at the bottom step. Jae-min? Yes? Do you trust me to do this? I trust you to be stronger than you know. That's not the same thing. Sometimes it's better. Upstairs, Nia checked on Evie, who was already asleep in the guest room. Her aunt looked small and fragile against the white pillows, but peaceful. In her own room, Nia changed into the borrowed pajamas and brushed her teeth with a new toothbrush Mrs. Park had provided. Everything she needed, perfectly anticipated, but she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Min's face, imagined his voice, wondered what kind of man traded in human collateral. At 2 in the morning, she gave up and went to the window. The city stretched out below, vast and anonymous. Somewhere out there, Evan was nursing his anger and his debts. Somewhere out there, Min was planning his next move. And somewhere in this house, Jae-min was probably awake too, making plans that involved violence and consequences and endings. Nia pressed her forehead against the cool glass and tried to imagine what her life might look like on the other side of tomorrow. Free from Evan's threats, free from Min's demands, free to make choices without fear. But freedom, she was learning, sometimes came at a price she wasn't sure she was ready to pay. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Come in. Jae-min appeared in the doorway, still dressed in his jeans and white shirt. Can't sleep. Too much thinking. About tomorrow? About everything. He moved to the window and stood beside her, looking out at the city lights. Do you want to talk about it? I want to understand why you're willing to risk so much for someone you barely know. I know you better than you think. How? I know you work 2 jobs to pay for your aunt's medical care. I know you give up your own dinner sometimes to make sure she has her medication. I know you haven't bought yourself new clothes in over a year. Nia felt heat rise in her cheeks. You've been watching me for a long time, long enough to see who you really are. Which is what? Someone who puts others before herself. Someone who fights even when she's scared. Someone worth protecting. The sincerity in his voice made Nia's throat tight. I'm not special. You're wrong. They stood in silence for a moment, the city sprawling below them like a promise of possibilities. If we do this, Nia said quietly, and something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong, but if it does, then you run, as fast and as far as you can. Don't look back. What about Evie? Mrs. Park will take care of her until it's safe. And you? Jae-min turned to look at her, his dark eyes serious. Don't worry about me. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you. Nia studied his face in the window's reflection. The sharp cheekbones, the careful control, the pain he carried like a weight. Will you stay? She asked. Until I fall asleep? Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or tenderness, if you want me to. I want you to. Jae-min moved to the chair near the window while Nia got into bed. The sheets were soft and warm, and for the first time in weeks, she felt truly safe. Jae-min? Yes. After tomorrow, will things go back to normal? There is no normal anymore. There's only what comes next. Is that good or bad? I don't know yet. Nia closed her eyes and listened to his quiet breathing in the chair, steady and reassuring. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For making me feel like I matter. You do matter. How do you know? Because you matter to me. The words settled between them like a promise, and for the first time since Evan had cornered her in that alley, Nia fell asleep without fear. But her dreams were full of coffee shops and strangers' faces and choices that couldn't be undone. When morning came, she would have to decide. Trust Jae-min's plan, or watch him find a bloodier solution. Either way, by tomorrow night, everything would be different. The only question was whether different meant free or dead. Morning sunlight filtered through the bedroom windows as Nia made her choice. She found Jae-min in the kitchen, already dressed in a dark suit, his face serious but calm. "I'll do it," she said. He looked up from his coffee. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." "Then it ends today." And as Nia prepared for what might be the most dangerous afternoon of her life, she realized that sometime during the long night, fear had transformed into something else. Trust. She trusted him to keep her safe. She trusted him to end this nightmare. She trusted him with her life. The only question now was whether that trust would be enough to keep them both alive.